If you're watching this right now, pause for just a second. Before the story pulls you in, before the moment changes shape, I need you to do something simple but important. Tap the like button. Subscribe to the channel. Not because it's something YouTubers say out of habit, but because stories like this don't survive unless people decide to stay. And this one only works if you stay until the very end. Because what I'm about to tell you isn't loud. It doesn't rush. And it doesn't explain itself right away. It waits. So stay with me. I didn't freeze because I was afraid. That's the part people always get wrong. I froze because his breath was already there, warm, close, unmistakably real. Before my thoughts had time to organize themselves into resistance or agreement. It wasn't sudden. It wasn't aggressive. It was precise. One hand rested on my shoulder. Not gripping. Not pulling. Just steady. Calm. Like it already knew exactly how much pressure it took to keep someone from stepping away without making them feel trapped. The other hand guided me back a half step. Slow. Familiar. Not rushed. As if this movement had been practiced, not rehearsed but understood. As if hesitation itself had a shape, and he recognized it better than I did. I bit down on my lip. I didn't nod. I didn't step back. I didn't say yes. But I didn't say no either. And in moments like that, silence stops being empty. It becomes an answer. Behind me, the door creaked open. Just a fraction. I didn't turn around. Didn't speak. Didn't even let my breathing change. I stayed exactly where I was, heart pounding so loudly it felt like it might give me away. The air shifted. Thicker now. Heavier. As if the room itself understood that something had crossed a point where returning to before was no longer possible. Then someone leaned in close. Too close. And a voice whispered near my ear, low and gentle. Happy birthday. It wasn't his voice. That was when my chest tightened. Not with fear but with awareness. Something had been set in motion long before I arrived here. The blindfold came next. Soft fabric. Cool against my skin. Pulled snug. Not tight enough to hurt, just enough to erase the hallway light until the world narrowed into sound, breath, and presence. I didn't resist. Not because I was told to, but because curiosity, when wrapped in calm, can speak louder than fear ever does. I was guided to the couch and sat down carefully on the edge. Hands folded in my lap. Back straight. Every movement deliberate. Like I understood instinctively that one careless shift could shatter whatever fragile balance had settled over the room. The silence wasn't empty. It felt watched. I didn't ask what time it was. Didn't ask who was there. Didn't ask what was going to happen next. Instead, I focused on my breathing. Slow. Even. Anchoring myself to something real. Then came the smallest sounds. Fabric brushing softly against skin. A faint clink, glass meeting wood. The whisper of movement carefully restrained. Then stillness again. I knew he hadn't left. Not because I heard him, but because the room felt like it was holding its breath, waiting for permission to exhale. What caught my attention wasn't movement behind me. It was the floorboard. One slow creak near the doorway. Careful. Measured. Then another. That wasn't him. Someone else was here now. I stayed completely still. Behind me, his voice came again, calm, controlled. He's here. That's all. No one move. The floor creaked again. Closer. Right behind me. My pulse thudded harder. Don't take off the blindfold, he said quietly. Then he stepped aside. I didn't need to see it to know the space had changed. The air felt charged. Waiting. Like something had entered that could not be undone. There was someone else now. I couldn't see him. But I knew instantly that he wasn't my partner. He didn't speak at first. He just stood there, close enough that silence gained weight. When he finally spoke, his voice was steady, certain. Happy birthday. It wasn't the words. It was the feeling, like this moment had been imagined long before it ever arrived. I straightened slightly, unsure where to place my hands. I kept them folded. Still. Contained. The blindfold stayed in place. I sensed movement, not touch. Just presence. Fabric shifting. A breath that wasn't mine. My partner remained silent. Watching. Allowing. I didn't move. Not because I was afraid, but because something inside me understood that stillness mattered. That this moment wasn't demanding anything from me. It was offering. You look peaceful like this, the man said. Not rushed. Not uncertain. Just observant. Footsteps moved softly, not toward me, but around me. Circling. Respectful. A quiet breath near my right side. Still no contact. I want you to lean back, he said. Then after a pause. But only if you choose to. My breath deepened. Not shaky. Not fast. Full. I leaned back slowly, hands pressing into the cushions beneath me. No one guided me. No one touched me. I followed something internal, something I didn't have language for yet. When I stopped moving, his voice came closer. You don't have to remove the blindfold, he said softly. Not yet. I nodded once. Then I felt it. Not his hand. Not his breath. The blindfold shifted slightly. Or maybe time did. No one moved. And yet I knew exactly how close he was. Not by touch, but by presence. The kind that rearranges something deep inside you without ever laying a finger on your skin. My hands stayed folded. Unsure. But not afraid. I heard him breathe slow, calm. I waited for words. Instead he moved, not closer but around me. Like someone carefully measuring distance. You don't need to see yet, he murmured. But I want you to know you're not alone. Something inside me turned. I didn't ask who he was. Didn't demand explanations. I let myself sink back fully, shoulders meeting cushions, arms relaxing at my sides. This wasn't performance. It wasn't habit. It was choice. I let the silence stretch. Then his voice came again. I was told you're strongest in stillness, he said. That when you stop trying, everything begins. I exhaled. Not from nerves. From recognition that I didn't realize how quiet the room had become until I noticed my own breathing again. Slow. Measured. Almost unfamiliar. The kind of breath you take when you're no longer bracing for impact. When your body realizes it isn't being chased. He stayed where he was. Close, but never crossing the invisible line. That mattered more than anything else. Because it told me something important. This moment wasn't being taken from me. It was being offered. His presence settled beside me like warmth after a long, unforgiving season. Not overwhelming. Not demanding. Just there. Steady. Patient. As if he understood that urgency would break something fragile, something that had taken years to form. You don't need to rush, he said quietly. No one's asking you to become anything tonight. The words landed deeper than I expected. Because I hadn't realized how long I'd been performing versions of myself just to keep peace. How often I'd adjusted my edges, softened my needs, quieted my instincts just to make sure nothing cracked. My throat tightened. Not with fear. With release. Across the room, my partner shifted slightly. I felt his gaze on me. Not possessive, not threatened. Curious. Like he was watching me discover something he'd always sensed, but never had language for. I turned my or stay exactly where you are. I chose to sit up. Slowly. This time, my movement felt different. Not cautious. Intentional. When our eyes met fully, something inside me cracked open. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Completely. I felt seen. Not as an idea. Not as a role. Not as someone fulfilling an expectation. But as a person suspended between who she had been and who she was becoming. He spoke again, quieter now, almost reverent. Most people think intimacy is about closeness, he said. But it's really about permission. My chest rose with a deep breath. My heart didn't race. It steadied. I nodded. He leaned forward just slightly, not invading my space, only enough to show presence. You've been holding yourself together for a long time, he continued. Tonight you don't have to. Something finally gave way. Not tears. Not collapse. Release. My shoulders dropped. My hands unclenched. My jaw softened. I hadn't realized how tense I'd been until I wasn't anymore. From behind us, my partner spoke quietly. She never lets herself rest like this. There was no accusation in his voice. Just truth. The man beside me glanced toward him, then back to me. You're safe, he said. All of you. The room felt both smaller and larger at the same time, like the world had narrowed to this moment, yet expanded somewhere deep in my chest. I leaned forward slightly, closing the distance on my own. Not touching, just closer. Our breathing found a rhythm. For a moment no one spoke. Then I felt it. The swell of emotion I'd been holding back for years. Not sadness. Not joy. Recognition. My hands lifted without conscious thought, hovering near his. I stopped myself just short of contact. He noticed. And instead of moving toward me, he stayed still. That restraint undid me more than anything else could have. My breath trembled. I didn't know I needed this, I whispered. I wasn't sure who I was speaking to. He answered anyway. Most people don't, he said gently, until they're given space to feel. My chest tightened, then softened, then filled. The emotion came in slow waves, powerful, undeniable. I closed my eyes briefly and let it wash through me. When I opened them again, the confusion was gone. I wasn't overwhelmed. I wasn't uncertain. I was awake. I let out a breath I felt like I'd been holding my entire life. And with that breath, I let go. Not of control. Of fear. Nothing dramatic followed. No sudden movement. No crossing of boundaries. Just stillness. Complete. Respectful. The man beside me leaned back slightly, giving me space again, proving the choice had always been mine. My partner stood and walked over, resting a hand gently on my shoulder. This time, it didn't steady me. It joined me. I looked between them. Heart full. Mind clear. And for the first time, I understood something essential. This wasn't about desire. It wasn't about temptation. It wasn't about crossing lines. It was about realizing how much of myself I had been denying just to survive. And how powerful it felt to finally choose myself. The room stayed quiet. Not because there was nothing left to say, but because everything important had already been felt.